Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. It's noon 02 there, I guess. I'm Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance and Miles Franklin Precious Metals, and we're here doing a live Ask the Broker. So if you have questions, make sure that you are subscribed, and feel free to jump in the chat there. Where the questions can come in if you are subscribed. If you're not subscribed, you won't be able to drop questions in the chat. So feel free to ask any questions. Now there are questions that are really suited for our guests, such as current market conditions and that kind of thing. And we have guests who are experts in lots of fields. What I have a lot of experience in is particularly the day to day is of how things are going for as a broker and in the day to day of buying and selling precious metals, trading, and so forth. So feel free to ask any questions about that, questions about IRAs, junk silver, and things of that nature. Some things that we wanted to start with here were some questions that myself and Dunnigan and Elijah have been seeing come up a lot from our clients. One thing that is very noteworthy is silver just crossed $64 an ounce, and we've been seeing a lot of people going, "Gosh, with silver so high, am I too late to get in? Did I miss it?" And questions of that nature. Certainly, it's silver's at all time highs, and it's however, there's a big difference between gold is near its all-time highs right now, and it's more than double what it previously hit for all-time highs, a year and a half ago. And so, it's taken some time to get there. So now, do most experts that we talk to, and myself and Dunnigan and Elijah personally think that silver has a lot more room to grow still, and gold for that matter as well. But particularly silver right now, there's still I think in our mind a lot of room for it to go higher, and certainly a lot of the experts that we talk to on a regular basis do that. Now, we're not financial advisors; we don't give financial advice, and I'm not a professional speculator. We have experts who do come on our channel who are professional speculators, and their interviews are really worth listening to in that regard. But if you look at the last time it reached anything over $50, and it was in the 1980s. You look at an asset that we're using more than at any other time in human history, for industrial purposes and for technology, and that there's this higher demand for actual physical silver than there ever has been in human history. And it's up until 2 weeks ago, it hadn't even crossed, it hadn't come into new all-time highs since the 1980s. And so that's a place that tells you, even if, let's say, it was very overvalued in the 1980s because of the way that it got to that price, which was, people trying to corner the silver market. And so say it was overvalued then. I mean, that was, 40 years ago. And even just with regular inflation or devaluation of the US dollar, you'd expect it to, even if it was overvalued by two times, you'd still expect it to be more US dollars to the ounce of silver than we're currently seeing right now, even at these all-time highs. So there's certainly, I think, like I said, all of us think that there's plenty of room for silver to grow. Uh, Now, that's a slightly separate question than people going, did I miss my opportunity to buy the dip? We don't know. Could it dip back down and and then take off again? Possibly. But there are lots of people who said when it crossed $30, well, I'll wait till it drops back below 20, and back below 30, and I'll buy the dip then. Or people who said in the mid 20s, I'll wait till it drops back into the teens and I'll buy the dip then. And they've you know that hasn't happened in since it's crossed um, 30 or the low 30s at least, and we haven't seen it drop back, and it's been quite some time since it's been down there. So the idea that I'm going to wait till it drops to some arbitrary number before I jump in, we don't know if or when that's going to happen. I think a lot of times it's easy to talk about these movements in the market as though they're inevitabilities. Oh, but notice with some of them that it just doesn't ever happen again. If you go, "Well, I'll buy Amazon stock when it goes back down to $5 a share," it's not going to happen again. Um, and so to look at that and go, I can't do anything about the past and I can't predict the future, but I can go, do I think that this is a that silver is appropriately valued or undervalued at this point? And you can ask that question, and then when you come up with the answer that you have, then you can make decisions based on that. One thing that sort of sidesteps the question, but is also worth looking at is the question of what kind of trades are profitable or advantageous at this point. So if you look at it and you go, I want to reposition myself in if it's not your first time purchasing, you have more options available to you. Certainly, the option to purchase is still there. Yes, it's silver's at all time highs, but it's just getting to these all time highs now that it hasn't seen in 40 years. And so to to look at that and say, is there more room to grow? Do I feel like silver is undervalued and it is now still a good time to get in? Then that's a really valuable thing to ask yourself. And my answer to that would be yes. But again, you have to make that decision for yourself. The other things that I think are really important to look at right now. So premiums are very for physical silver are very low right now. You tend to see that spot price is a reflection of what large financial institutions are doing in terms of trading, buying and selling and shorting and getting futures on silver and gold, and the premiums are a direct reflection of what the demand is for that particular physical product. And we're seeing really depressed premiums across the board on most items, particularly when you look at it as a how much of the premium is the overall cost of, or excuse me, how much of the overall cost of the coin is premium. So our premiums on gold are they're roughly the same dollars wise as they were when gold was half its price at 2000 at 1800. Where right now we've got a special this week on gold eagles that is way lower than anybody at $145 over spot. Gold eagles have been trading 100 to 100, excuse me, 100 to $150 over spot for much of even when gold was half the spot price that it is now. So as an overall function of the coin, the premium has come way down on it, even though it's stayed roughly the same. Of course, if you look at March, April, May of 2023, when all the banks were closing, gold eagle premiums were up above $200 an ounce, while gold was at 18, 1900, $2,000. So that's a 10 to 15% premium back then, and now you're talking it's $145 over spot. You're talking that's less than a 5% premium. So about actually less than a 4% premium. So it's still certainly the premiums are very low there. And on silver, we're seeing, we're selling junk silver, some kinds of junk silver, and depending on volume at below spot, 50 cents, a dollar below spot. On 40% junk silver, we're at $1.85 below spot is our weekly special here. And so where it's something where it's a great time to swap because premiums are low, even though the spot price is high. So if you have thought, I'd like to position myself more in silver than in gold, I want to swap some gold into silver. it's a good time to do that. If you want to look at just swapping different kinds of things, I want to move from gold coins to numismatics. It's still a very good time to do that with these, you know, uh, numismatic premiums at a very low point in their cycle. It's a great time to swap from from bullion, silver bullion, into eagles or into junk silver, because both of those have the eagles have a tight premium to where frequently the premium on silver eagles is way above the premium on bullion or that kind of thing. And right now, it's a very close premium. We can get backdated eagles around $5 over spot, when a lot of other coins are trading right there, and so are even bullion. You're paying 2, 3, $4 over spot for bars, and so that's a very close differential between them. And so you can swap. Something I did a few months ago was took a lot of just silver bars. I had kilo bars, 100-ounce bars, and swapped them for eagles. You go down a little bit in ounces, but the uh, to be in a more flexible option, because it's 1 ounce rather than 32 ounces or 100 ounces, and to have the most in demand and recognized coin in the Americas is certainly valuable. So it's a great time to swap, and it's certainly, I think, uh, I would look at it personally, ask myself the question, if I was looking to get into silver or gold for the first time, I would just say, based on the fact that silver is just now, after 40 years, pushing back into the territory of new highs, and looking at where it is in demand, and the industry, it is now a good time to still get into silver. And my answer for myself would be yes. Um, and so I think those are two things that we're hearing come up a lot from our clients. We no one can has a crystal ball and can predict the future, but I think you can look at where things are at a present time, and make judgments based off of that, and what you think the intrinsic value is, and where is it undervalued, is it overvalued, is it, where is it right now. So let me jump in and look at some viewer questions here. So I have 64.30 right now on silver. Yeah, pretty good. Um, and hi back to Florida and back to Pittsburgh there. Uh, and just EJ Studios subbed and re-asking if you're enter entering into a stagflation economy in 2026. What is that going to do for the price of gold and silver? Less industrial demand for products, but higher inflation. So, right. Though, I mean, I think you're looking at all the important points there. And while I can't say, and no one can say what it will do, I think, we look at those, and again, I'd also direct you to a lot of our expert videos who they talk about stagflation, they talk about the industrial demand, and even at a suppressed industrial demand, we're not churning out, say, as many iPhones or electric cars or that kind of thing. It's still a higher demand that it almost than at any point in human history outside of the last couple of years, for silver. So one thing to remember about physical silver. So silver is used in every single piece of technology that we have. It's the measure of electrical conductivity is on a scale from zero to silver. Silver is the top of the scale, and so it's used in everything that we have. Copper's high on the scale, and it's nowhere near silver in terms of electrical conductivity. And so while we see copper wires used in lots of things, and copper used in different pieces of technology as well, because it's much cheaper than silver for stuff that you need to operate at a high level and at a high capacity. Silver is what you've got to use. And so we're seeing, with again this high industrial demand. The other thing that you point out, that the fact that we've been seeing just runaway inflation in a lot of ways for the last several years here, and and to the point that oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the agency that calculates it, but that they've had to change the way that they calculate inflation so as to make it you know appear lower. That that's a good marker of what the price of silver is. And when we look at silver and gold and the price of silver and gold, it's easy to go, oh, I'm gaining all this value here because this is uh gold's doubled in value. And what you're really looking at is the fact that the buying power of the US dollar has been reduced. When you look at the skyrocketing spot price of gold and silver, it's a lot of that has to do with the reduction of the your buying power with the U.S. petrodollar, the Federal Reserve note, and the gold gold hasn't had a lot of market events to it hasn't had a lot of things that would anything that would change the intrinsic value of the gold we have on available to us, the physical gold. It doesn't. There have been some things that have you know been that have affected it, but not to an outrageous degree. And so the fact that gold spot is twice what it was not too long ago, a lot of that comes to just looking at the way that inflation has happened, and it's starting to reflect that reality. And so it's worth knowing that that's what's going on. And it's valuable to have real tangible assets to be able to deal with the loss of value in the currency. So I hope that answers the question, or at least gives you more food for thought on it. And again, direct you to a lot of our interviews on the channel that they talk extensively about these kind of topics as well. Uh, so, uh, India just allowed pension funds to invest in gold and silver ETFs. Very cool, and that's something that So here you can in the US. I don't know all the regulations about pension funds, but certainly 401ks, IRAs, those can you can do precious metals IRAs, and you can invest in and take distributions in precious metals. If that's something that you're interested, feel free to give us a call. 1-888-81 Liberty. That's 1-888-815-4237. I will put that in the chat here a little bit later, and I think it's in our bio below in the video description. But it's so if you're going to have a retirement account, you can decide whether you want that in the stock market, in a money market account, getting some you know uh, interest right now. I think you can get things that are 2, 3, 4%, which is being slowly left behind by inflation as inflation is nominally at what 3.5%, but you can see by cost of living increases that it's much higher than that in reality. And so we have a number of guests who've pointed out that when you put your money in something that's earning 2 or 3 or 4%, if inflation is higher than that, you're slowly having your funds eaten away at. You're not actually, earning money on it. You're just, having it depleted a little bit more slowly than if it was cash under a mattress. So the having it in a tangible asset that you can have delivered to you personally at when you start taking distributions, that may be something that may be a good fit for you. Um, and we've talked before, if people have questions about that, I can address those as well. But we've talked before about how to make sure you're dealing with a good uh, custodian for a precious metals IRA, how to make sure you're dealing with a good broker and dealer for a precious metals IRA, and how to pick a good depository for a precious metals IRA. So maybe sometime we'll also just do a whole half hour show on how to make those decisions for the three parts of precious metals IRA. So, um, is there a floor at 55? Maybe, maybe it goes down to there, bounces back up. Hard to say. We have again technical analysts who come on and look a lot at those things, and where the moving averages and where the support and resistance are. So those are always worth looking at. But I think the overall question is to look at silver where it's at right now and go today. Is silver undervalued, overvalued, or about right? And how do I feel about that? So, uh, is Miles Franklin still buying and selling silver? No shortage. Uh, so those are really they're two separate questions. So yes, we are buying and selling silver, trading all the time, and that's what we do. That's what we've done for nigh on 40 years now at Miles Franklin, and we will continue to as long as there's movement of metals. And as people sometimes people go, oh well, what if you sell out entirely? And we've had times when certain products have totally sold out. Again, 2.5 years ago here, we were 3 months out on Silver Eagles. We had the the contract from U.S. Mint saying we will deliver these eagles, but we were selling through tens of thousands of eagles at a time, and so we would tell clients, yes, we can lock an order for you on Silver Eagles, but it's going to be 3-4 months before you actually receive them. You can pay for them now, lock them in, and you can get them in 3 or 4 months. But we've sold through, the batch that we have in the warehouse. We've sold through the next 2 shipments coming from the U.S. Mint, and that kind of thing. With products like junk silver, we saw this big run on junk silver where we sold totally out of junk silver, and as Andy Schechtman says, they're not making any more of it. And so we sold through all that, and we had to wait until we were able to find more junk silver from someone who wanted to sell it. And the way that we did that was by increasing, as the market demanded it, we increased our buyback premiums because we were able to also increase the sales premiums. And so, eventually we were right now, like I said, you can buy junk silver at below spot because there hasn't been a high demand for physical silver, so we have it. Um, uh, but in 2.5 years ago, we had, we were paying $9 over spot to buy junk silver from clients so that we could, sell it at $12 over spot. So junk silver, Silver Eagles, those are ones where premiums move a lot when there's a high demand for physical silver. And also, up until 2020, we saw it tended to be that pretty much any silver product you could get at any time that you wanted. But in the last few years here, now for almost every dealer, their list of what they've got in stock and ready to go is significantly reduced. And so overall in the market, yes, there's still a there's an overall, I don't know if I'd call it full on shortage, but there's certainly a squeeze on the market as far as what sort of products are in the market versus not available right now. And a lot of that has to do with some people holding it. It has to do with the industrial demand for it, and it has to do with what we're seeing coming into us and getting sold. We're seeing a lot more people selling right now because the spot price is so high, but overall we're still seeing that there's far more buyers than sellers, and that still hasn't shifted. um and so I think that's worth knowing. And and so is there a looming shortage on a lot of products? We just don't have them. We don't see them coming in anytime soon. We have all the coins from the six major mints, but sometimes we're running. Um, Sometimes even on some of these, we're running weeks out or a month or two out because we know we're getting more of them in, but we we're only getting them when the mints are shipping them out to us. So sometimes we're running into, we've been telling clients, hey, look, happy to get you backdated Silver Eagles and get them for you at a good deal. It's 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out before you're going to see those show up in your mailbox. But not in your mailbox. They get delivered to you at the door. You have to sign for them. They don't get dropped in the mailbox. But so that's again worth knowing is that there are shortages on some things and just supply delays on other ones where, yeah, because there's been this high demand for the last 5 years here, we've seen supply shortages. So yeah, yeah, over $64. But in answer to your question, we will, every day we buy, sell, trade. So that is what we do, and that won't change. So, and let's see. Uh, if it drops to $4, you won't get it. Undervalued until demands are met. I would say so. Currently, demand outstripping supply. That's certainly true when it comes to silver. And I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but that you know uh, the demand for physical silver, again, particularly in the industrial sector and the technology sector, there's this demand that there the supply is not keeping up with it. The generation of new silver supply is not keeping up with it. And by and large, right now, because the silver spot price has been so low for 40 years, the it hasn't been profitable to run a silver mine for the sake of a silver mine. And so the only silver mines that are operational are ones that are in conjunction with gold mines or copper mines, and where they also found silver along with those. And so it's that's worth noting, and that it takes almost 10 years to get a mine really up and running and into full production. And so that it takes that a shortage doesn't go away quickly, because you can't get new supply in there without a strong silver mines. And if there are really almost none of them operational right now, and they're all several years down the road before it would even make sense for companies to do that, it's worth noting that the pressure won't come off of the supply chain with any speed, even when it becomes profitable for the companies to just have a standalone silver mine, or one that isn't just already operating because of being found along with gold or copper and that kind of thing. So that's certainly, yeah, worth noting how far the demand is outstripping the supply. Um, some people, yeah, making jokes about how far people expect I'll wait for it to go back down to $4 an ounce. I'll wait for it to go back, gold to go down to $1,000 an ounce. So let's see what else we've got here. Um, uh, Counterfeit junk silver. We don't see that very often. So we don't run into that. So if you talk to a legitimate dealer, and Miles Franklin is licensed and regulated by this in the state of Minnesota. We're headquartered there. It's bullion dealing is a federally unregulated industry beyond anti-money laundering regulations, and so beyond that, it's a federally unregulated industry, which means no one's checking up on anybody to make sure that they're doing good product, that they can meet all their orders, or anything like that, except in the state of Minnesota. There, it's third party audited. We have to be able to show that we can meet outstanding orders. We have to, show that we handle and address client issues to Minnesota's industry standard for it. So it's the only state where and I have to be personally and individually licensed. Every single person who works for the company needs to. And so when you look at that, there are very few dealers and particularly ones who deal on a national scale, but are headquartered in Minnesota. So even after Andy moved to Florida and that kind of thing, we remain headquartered in Minnesota, so that we can have that extra uh, bar that we have to clear to uh, know that we can remain someone that our clients can know is held to the highest standard possible in the country. Like I said, in no other state is it required. So that's the uh, something that's very important when you look at that. So we don't come across counterfeit junk silver very often at all. Um, we have sometimes run into uh, as we get product in from the secondary market, that we run into stuff that isn't authentic, that someone bought off of eBay or something like that, and then goes, here, I'll try to sell it to you. But we test it coming in, and down to the purity of a 1/10,000th of an ounce. So we immediately know whether or not it's authentic product or not. And so generally, the places that you find that you would encounter and junk silver, there's not a because there's it's all dimes are 1/12th of an ounce, uh and that kind of thing, or less, a little bit less than that. It's something where it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense to counterfeit a bunch of dimes. But silver eagles, those, if you go on eBay and you are buying silver eagles, you may very well get counterfeit silver eagles. We've heard from a very high proportion of clients who have purchased on eBay, that they've gotten counterfeit ones, that the weight isn't right, it's not right. And so um, yeah, so that's worth noting too, that you want to work with a broker dealer that you can actually trust. And we have not been running into a lot of people trying to sell uh, counterfeit junk silver to us. And it's rare that we run into people selling us, uh, counterfeit eagles or maples or anything else as well. So it's rare that we run into that, but it does happen. And most of the time, there's one or two of them in a box, not in a box, but in uh, you know, a thousand ounces. And so it's something where the person who's selling it to us, most likely didn't realize that either, that they had a couple of counterfeits in there. But there's so it's not something that we run into. And when we do run into it, we catch it before we sell it again. And so uh that way we know, and you can always be assured that you're getting the genuine article. And again, that's one of the really important reasons to deal with a broker dealer that has to meet that higher standard of being audited, and being checked in on a license and that kind of thing. Whereas almost none of them out there, all the major online retailers, they don't have to meet those standards. So you know we do, because we're headquartered in Minnesota, and so it gives you an opportunity to make sure that we're being held to the highest business practices in the industry. So um, let's see. Lycanhet maples. Maples are my second favorite silver coin, and behind the eagle. Right now, we actually had an instance last week where the price on backdated silver eagles, was actually lower than the price on backdated silver maples for like 4 days. Which is, you never see. I've not seen it once up until last week for those couple of days. And but it's still very close. I think it's like a 25-cent difference between the two right now. So silver maples are great to get. I particularly like getting them when there's a much larger gap between silver eagles and maples. Right now, the premium is so close, I would favor silver eagles, but silver maples are great. They're 4/9 fine silver, and made by one of the most respected mints on the planet, the Royal Canadian Mint. So and they have more security features on them to make counterfeiting harder and that kind of thing. But again, if you're buying from a legitimate dealer, particularly one licensed and bonded in the state of Minnesota, uh, you the likelihood of running into a counterfeit coin is almost not at all. If you're buying off of eBay, secondhand, from those kind of places, that's the Wild West. So I wouldn't recommend that. But um, why do American eagles draw higher prices versus maple leaf? So the American gold eagle and the American silver eagle are the, I believe, so ever since they've been minted, they are certainly the most in demand coin in the Americas, and because they're denominated in U.S. currency, and that's been the world reserve currency, um, and the U.S. Mint is a highly respected mint, and so they've been in the most demand ever since they were minted, and I think overall that if you look across the world, they're the most in demand coin as well. I know in some places, if you isolate them out, like in Europe, the Philharmonic is the most popular coin, but if you look worldwide, I believe the American Eagle is the most popular bullion coin, the most in demand, and so that's why they command higher premiums. Is they're uh, harder to come by because there's so much demand for them, and so the demand is always outstripping the supply on those, and so we do see that they're always going to have a higher premium than maples or other ones. Except for, like I said, that one on backdated eagles versus backdated maples for 3 days last week, we saw an anomaly there. And let's see. We'll wrap up here shortly. Let's see if there are any other really any silver more in favor coins or rounds. Again, the highest demand right now is for silver eagles, and so that those are the ones that. And but again, the premium is still very close to silver maples, so I'm favoring silver eagles for purchases right now as well. And the right now the delta between the buyback and the sale price is tighter on eagles than it is on other coins as well. Um, let's see. Christmas will have silver decorations. That's all. Any more silver? Let's see. Have a good cost average starting long ago, but much is the now defunct. And no one is around. Would this ever be an issue? Um, with specific mints and rounds and that kind of thing, I think you're. I don't know that anyone who's not a. I think the level of expertise about the bullion industry that you would need to question the uh, the silver purity of rounds from a particular mint would then let you also know that they're fine. I don't think you run a high risk of anyone going, wait a minute, that was from that one that had this issue happen. So if they have a level of expertise to wonder about a particular mint, then they also have the level of expertise to know that they're fine. So that would be my assumption there. Um, Let's see. And what is the buy sell ratio you're seeing at Miles Franklin? More sellers than buyers. So we're seeing more sellers than we have seen for the last 5 years, but we're still seeing more buyers and more large buyers than we're seeing sellers. So certainly, I would say maybe we're seeing 20 20% of the orders that we see come in are sellers and 80% are buyers. And if you look at people who are just straight sellers for fiat currency versus swapping into some other silver product or gold product, because again, it's a really good time to do that because while spot prices are high, premiums are low, so it's a really good time to swap. The if you take those ones out of it, it's probably 10% buyers. But for the bulk of the last 5 years here, we saw maybe 2 to 5% of our calls um, were sellers versus buyers. So still a lot more buyers than sellers. But overall, the demand for physical silver has been is down from where it has been, and it's and the sales are up from where they have been, and so it's something where uh, that's why we're seeing the premiums affected the way that they are, where you've got these really low uh, premiums to purchase silver and gold, especially relative to the overall value of the coin. So yeah, uh, let's see. And what's the opinion of buying buffaloes? Asks Lambo 6325. Harder to trade or sell. I assume what you're are you asking about? I'll address both gold and silver buffaloes. I assume you're asking about gold ones, but maybe not. So silver buffaloes are they can be minted by any private mint. They are not minted by the U.S. Mint. They have an old U.S. coin design on them of the buffalo nickel, but they're not minted by the U.S. Mint. Silver buffaloes are generic bullion, and they tend to be they tend to be a little more popular than I would say just generic rounds or generic bars. But they are just a generic round because they can be made by any mint. They're not a particular. They don't have to have any sort of particular pedigree to make those rounds. So they're generic bullion, just in a design that people like, and so we see them a little bit more in demand usually than other just raw bullion, but but they are just raw bullion, so they're a little bit easier to buy and sell than uh, than bullion because they are a little bit more popular. When it comes to gold, um, the those are gold buffalo are minted by the United States Mint. They're kind of the U.S.'s answer uh, to the Canadian maple. So for a while, the U.S. had the gold eagle. That was the first gold bullion coin after the legalization of owning gold in the U.S. Happened again, and so. But that one it's not pure gold. It's still one full troy ounce of gold in there, but it's mingled with copper and silver to make it more durable. And so it's 91.67% gold. And again, there's still a full troy ounce in there. So it's still a 1 ounce gold coin. It just weighs a little bit more than an ounce because of the copper and silver in there. But the gold content in there is a full ounce of gold. And it's the same. It's a 22 karat gold, just the same as like the Krugerrand is, and the Krugerrand is probably the most famous gold coin in history. But the U.S. gold coin, uh, the American Eagle, 91.67% gold, and then with the popularity of a pure gold coin, the 4 nines fine maple, they started minting um, the gold buffalo, and that has the same design as the the silver buffalo, which is it's the buffalo head nickel design, which is it, but these ones are made exclusively by the U.S. Mint, and so they're a higher purity, and we also we don't see any issues buying or selling those ones. They even tend to sometimes move the premiums on buffalo. Sometimes they are a little bit higher than that on eagles just because of the purity of the coin, but overall, if you looked at the the level of demand for buffaloes versus eagles, eagles still take the cake as far as level of demand for those. So that's what we see on a consistent basis, is that the eagles are more popular, but we do see sometimes the premiums on buffaloes go up a little bit more just because there's this sudden demand for them, and for that kind of purity. So that's a little bit about both silver and gold buffaloes. Let's see. Uh, so yeah, our buybacks tend to be Eddie says shops offering 550 under spot here in Kansas. It's the same everywhere. That's even on Eagles. Yes, so you'll see a lot of places, a lot of the online dealers, and a lot of there's certainly a lot of local coin shops when they're purchasing. They're way below spot right now. We're below spot on a lot of items, um, but I haven't found anyone else who's doing anything close to us as far as buybacks go on, certainly on silver and on gold products as well, where we're buying back at higher rates than basically anybody else out there. I think even we're selling junk silver below spot, but and you know that I think it's a last I checked, it was like four. We're buying it at 4 or 5 something under spot there, but looks like 5 under spot on a swap and a little bit less if you're just doing a straight buyback. But we're still buying a lot of uh, most coins right around spot, maybe a little bit below spot if you're doing a straight buyback versus a swap. But yeah, a lot of people out there, they're on if you try to sell them silver maples right now, they'll say, oh, it's $4 under spot on that, and that's we're much closer to spot on those kind of things. So, like I said, still a good time to swap. It's a good, with the high spot price. If you're looking to just position yourself a little bit differently, we're still happy to take your sale trades. You're not going to get the high premium, but heaven sakes, the spots double what it was a year ago. So, if you want to, just have reallocate some assets, we're happy to help you in the sales process as well, and we'll get you a better premium than anyone else out there. Um, all right, and so I will drop our direct line and our email address in the chat here so that you have that. And I believe, like I said, I believe it's also in our description. But again, I'm Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance and Miles Franklin Precious Metals. Um, please subscribe and like the video if any of this was helpful to you, and click the notification bell so you hear about all of our videos with our expert guests. But yeah, thanks for being here. Really appreciate each and every one of you for being here, for listening in, for asking your good and thoughtful questions. So thank you for all of that, and we will see you next time.